All right, and we're live. Welcome to Ukrainian Dynamics 365 and Power Platform user group meetup. Here we discuss different technical topics related to the Microsoft Dynamics 365 applications, both CRM and ERP, Power Platform and related technology stacks. We host our meetups every 2 weeks in Ukrainian or in English languages. I want to thank our community leaders, Elizabeth Akinfeeva, Maxim Martinov, and Valentin Gasenko for their contribution to community development. Please note that we are recording this event. The video you can find later on our YouTube channel. Our today's speaker is Igor Shvets, a Power Platform, Dynamics 365 and Azure Principal Consultant. The presentation topic is integrating Power Apps with Service Bus, Logic App, and Azure SQL, streamlining data flow for efficient business operations. Igor, over to you.
Thank you, Max. Thank you for having me. Good day and good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. First time after 2 years. So I see we're a small group, so feel free to ask any questions. Feel free to interrupt me. I think we can have a collaborative session if you want. Just for me to gauge a little bit to the crowd, can you put thumbs up if you're familiar with the topic? Can you put thumbs up? Okay, so we have two people. How many people here just put? Oh my God! So pretty much everybody's an expert. Is like, do we have anybody who's the first time who sees this topic for the first time? Okay, Bogdan. Okay, so we're in our familiar crowd. So I guess I think we'll go rather fast. So like if anything is not clear, let me know. Unfortunately, due to nature of my screen, I would need to shift the focus of presentation from one screen to the other, and I try to be as hands-on as possible. So the topic of presentation is going to be integrating Power Apps with the Service Bus, Logic App, and Azure SQL, presented by me, Igor Shvets, on March 28, 2023. Why I chose this presentation? Because first there was a demand from the user group of how to integrate data with Azure. And I see this particular pattern used pretty often, and often I see it being misunderstood. Obviously, like everything else in IT, there is not one way to do things. There are multiple ways to do things. And this presentation, I really want to focus on the concepts and the tools available to integrate the data from dataverse, Power Apps to Service Bus, Logic App, and SQL. So since the presentation is short, we will look at the moving pieces, how they integrate together. What we're not going to see is the concept of security and best practices. We're not going to see any of that, right? It's too short. If there is any interest, please raise the question to the leader of your units, and we will adjust our presentation accordingly. If you want to go more in depth, it's going to be my pleasure to create more in-depth presentation. So please do thumbs up if you're able to see my screen. You should see Power Platform. Yes, you're able to see the screen. Good. So quick introduction. My name is Igor Shvets. About 20 years experience in IT, about 10 years experience in Dynamics. I live in Montreal, Canada for actually this year have been 30 years. I love all things that related to Dynamics 365 in Azure, and I'm the owner of the company Avantgarde 365 that provides consulting. Now, brief introduction. So what we're going to see today is we're going to see the brief overview of Power Apps, Service Bus, Logic Apps in Azure SQL. The objective is to indicate that can be used together to seamlessly integrate data to create powerful and data-driven application. And obviously the benefits to enhance communication, workflow, automation, data storage, and capabilities. I always put the picture of kids playing together in my presentations. And the reason why I put picture like this, because kids never play alone, right? Kids always play with other kids. And it's pretty rare that your Power Apps will rarely be utilized by itself, right? It has to integrate nicely with other applications and other services, right? Hence, I always put the picture of kids playing with hence I always put a picture of kids playing with themselves. Now, quick overviews before we go into the actual example itself. So overview of Power Apps. Power Apps is a Microsoft platform to quickly create applications. It allows a drag and drop interface. It allows to have pre-built templates and data connectors. And the goal of this is to create custom business application without extensive coding knowledge, which from what I'm seeing, we're able to see it more and more efficiently every year, right? So that's why Power Apps is a very interesting tool, in my opinion, and getting a lot of traction. Another component that we're going to have is a service bus. And the service bus is a fully managed cloud-based messaging system. So the key features of this, it's a message queuing. You can have a publish and subscribe pattern and topic-based filtering. What we want to do, we want to enable asynchronous communication between application and services when we want to decouple the application with the actual messaging. What we're going to see today, it's a simple one. We're going to see message queuing, and the other patterns, if there is interest, we can look next time for subsequent presentation if there is any public interest. Probably come to one of my favorite service. It's Logic Apps. Logic Apps is the mother or the father of Power Automate. It's a cloud-based service for creating and running workflows. The key features is it has a visual designer, pre-built connectors, and it has a service execution. The use case to automate and orchestrate tasks and business processes and workflows. Why I personally like Logic Apps, there are rumors, not completely confirmed, but based on my observation, it is true. I find it works a little bit faster and a little bit more reliable than Power Automate. Of course, this stays as a rumor, but my observation shows that that's the case. Also, I think it provides you a better. Developer experience because it's easier to DevOps. It's easier to put security. It just provides a lot more features to developers. And also, from what I'm seeing is, when you have a lot of execution, it's actually ends up being much cheaper than Power Automate. Okay. There are different opinions on this, but from what I'm seeing so far, it ends up being much cheaper than a Power Automate for repetitive enterprise tasks. And we have Azure SQL. It's probably one of my other favorite service is Azure SQL. So it's a fully managed, scalable, and intelligent relational database. Features automatic backups, high availability, and performance optimization. The use case: store, retrieve, and manage structural data in the cloud. I think everybody's familiar with this from what I'm seeing in this presentation. There's one big misconception that I want to address here is the price of it. So what if the biggest disadvantage that I hear people say is that it's a very, very expensive service, but if you configure it right, and again, if there is any interest, we can address it in subsequent sessions. If what you have to do is not very intense and it's the load is predictable, you can get very interesting resource very cheaply, right? In one of the projects, we used the Azure SQL in a telehealth project, and it had a huge database, and the cost of it was like less than $50 a month. So it provides you something fully on cloud, fully managed, and at a good price. But you have to go into the Azure parameters and tweak it a little bit. All right, so next one is going to be the demo of the integration. Do we have any questions of the theoretical aspect of what we've seen so far? Do you have any questions? Anything we need to, anything you want to look more, anything you want to look more in depth? Going once, going twice, okay. No questions. So what I've prepared for you, it's a pretty simple, I prepared a pretty simple demo of how things integrate with each other. And we will look at the details behind the integrations. So let me share my screen. Let me move this on the other side. Do you see my other screen, my Power Up screen? Okay, just please thumbs up if you see it. So it's going to be very, very simple table. What we have account, we have the product, the total, and the owner. The goal, what we want to do is when you have many sales orders come in, and we wanted to make sure that a credit check department sees if the sales order has a big value, then they will put it in a different system that is that the credit managers in the accounting can go activate the credit check on a customer. So what's going to happen is when you create a new account, your ID for sales orders will be pre-populated. So you will, let's say, choose products, let's say 1, 2, 3, and you put the total amount is 4444. You will do save. You will wait a couple of seconds, and inside Azure SQL, you're going to have the value. Just give it a few seconds. Okay, we have a sales order 127 and 444. So what happened? What actually happened behind the scenes? Behind the scenes, we had. Let me just refresh it. We sent a message to. We send a message to a service bus. We put it inside the queue. We parsed the data from the queue, and we used the logic apps to publish the information inside Azure, and we placed the information inside Azure SQL. So now, if do we have any questions on this, on the general structure? So event is we capture the event from on create event of the sales order. We linked it to service bus, and we put it. We made logic app capture it and put it inside the SQL server. Any question about the general structure of the of how the integration worked? No? Okay. If you don't have any questions, so let's look at each one of them. Let's look at each of the components in a little bit more details. So the first thing is where I find there is the most misunderstanding is with the service bus. So let me just share my other screen. Okay. You should be able to see. You should be able to see my screen. If you want the PowerPoint after this, we'll be able to share with you. So in order to create the service bus, you just need to log into the portal. You need to create the resource. You create the namespace. And for this particular case, we created a queue inside this namespace. So why we created a queue? Because there are different patterns for integration, right? You have the service bus. It has queues, topics, and publish, subscribe. Those are the key keywords to keep in mind. So the queues, topics, and publish, subscribe, they're all messaging patterns in a distributed system to enable communication between different components. They have some similarities, but also some differences, right? In the queue-based system, message is sent to the queue and will be held until recipients receive them. Each message is consumed by one recipient, and once it's consumed, it's removed from a queue. Queues are useful in a situation where there's a single recipient for a given message, such as one processing orders or handling requests for the service. We can have slightly more complicated integration is like a topics. In a topics-based messaging system, messages are sent to the topics, which is a name destination. Subscribers can register to receive messages from the topics, and each message is delivered to all the subscribers. Topics are useful in a situation where multiple recipients that need to receive the same message, such as broadcasting notifications or updates. You have also publish and subscribe. Is the messaging pattern that combines elements of both messages, of both queues and topics. Publishers send the messages to the topics, and subscribers can register to receive the messages from the topic. Unlike topics, messages are consumed by only one subscriber. This allows for more targeted message delivery and reduces the risk of message duplication. So in summary, messages queues are used when we have single recipient for the message, and topics are used when you have multiple recipients that need to receive the same messages. And PubSub is used when there are multiple recipients, but each message should be consumed by one recipient. So I had a screen capture from Microsoft Learn indicating the general structure of this. Do we have any questions so far on? Do we have any questions so far on how it works? Actually, I don't see the screen, Max. So if you see somebody raising their hand, just please let me know. Okay.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you very much. So let's look at the different things that could be interesting from this. So first thing you need to do, you need to create a server. You need to create a service bus resource. So I created the service bus resource. You have to make sure it has the shared access policy. So you can define them. Obviously, copy this data. Don't share it with anybody. After this, you would need to create a queue. So we've created, well, I'm not sure why I say we. I've created this sales order queue, and this is a queue that listens to the messages, right? And you have the URL for it to listen. There are different ways you can connect it to.
Sorry, Igor, are you supposed to share another your screen where you actually show how it is created in Azure?
Yes.
Because we're seeing the presentation still. I was just
absolutely. This is hence my challenge with one big screen to share the screen. Thank you very much for letting me know, and I will rewind about a few seconds back. Thank you. So basically, to see the resource group, you have to go to your service bus namespace, where you create the namespace for your service bus. Don't forget to set the shared access policy. This is something that allows you to create to your Dynamics environment. You create a queue that you want to listen to for this particular presentation. And when you click on the queue, you can see that all the messages, you can actually monitor it there through Service Bus Explorer, right? So if the message is not consumed, you'll be able to go to the Explorer and you'll be able to pick on the messages. So there's a few interesting features to keep in mind. So once this queue is created, there are a few different ways it can be connected to Azure. I chose the simple way to do it is using the plugin registration tool. So let me just share my other screen, which is the plugin registration. So what you have to do is you basically register the service endpoint. And make sure you select obviously the namespace address. This is one of the parameters in the security settings that you will see for creation of the creation of the queue, for the creation of the the creation of the endpoint. You put your queue name. Don't forget to change the message format. The default is going to be net binary. Just don't forget to put it in JSON. Yeah, you put the authorization type. And once you created the service endpoint, you capture the step, right? So for the step, it's going to be create the sales order. You have to put the server and asynchronous, okay? Because the communication between them is asynchronous. So this is going to be your step. So once you have this, your service bus is going to be ready to listen to the events that are sent by your system. And after that, Logic Apps will be able to consume, after Logic Apps will be able to consume the event. Any questions on this? Any questions on any question of how you link your dataverse to service bus using plugin registration tool, or any questions about how to register service bus inside Azure? Max, if you see any questions, please raise your hand.
No, seems to be clear.
Okay. Or not clear, also a possibility. All right. So the next one is what we're going to do is it's going to be integration with. After this is going to be the time of the logic apps. So when we go to inside logic apps, you create your logic apps. It gives you slightly different but fairly similar interface to your Power Automate. So if you edit it, you put the connector for when the message is received to a queue, autocomplete. You basically specify the queue name and say you're going to be checking for each minute. So here I just created the variable for the content so you can see what's inside the content. You parse the content, you initialize the variable, and you use Azure SQL connector from from Logic Apps to populate the Azure SQL database. So let's see this in action. So right now it's 11:45. Let's look at 55. So we're going to create another one. It's going to be, let's select it as customer. And the product is going to be PR, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4. The total is going to be, let's say, 5.55. Going to do save and close. So if you're fast, you'll be able to see it passing in the service bus, but let's wait until the logic app runs. Going to take a few seconds. Almost there. There we go. We have the logic app run. So similarly to your Power Automate, you'll be able to see each execution step of what's going on, right? You'll be able to see the raw inputs parameters, raw output parameters for this. Here it's nothing really that interesting. What's more interesting is here. I put the variable called content, and you will be able to see all the content that was sent from dataverse table that's passed inside the service bus as a message. So after that, you will just parse your JSON to get all the data from the total, from a sales order name, etc. Initialize each variable to the value, and basically put it inside the Azure SQL. So just like inside Power Automate, you're able to do other things. For example, if you want to send an email, you can choose another connection here for the email. Outlook. You can create an email. Hold on a second. Why I'm not seeing this? I think it's an email. D365.com. I can use the usual variable, and I can put total. I choose the variable is for the amount, right? Can do the save. And if I create another sales order, it will be able to proceed through the previous steps and send me an email in the end. So I'll just put any random amount. So we'll see the logic app run. Just give it a second. be less than a minute. And we have the Logic app run, and I received my email from the Logic app. So as you can see, the behavior is fairly similar to what you see in Power Automate. So the last thing I want to see here is the Azure SQL. And like I said, it's one of my favorite tools in all Azure platforms. So here you have the concept: you create the virtual server, which is not exactly work as on-premise SQL Server. It's more like a sugar around it. You can different authentication options. I chose the simple one for this particular demonstration. You create a SQL database, similarly as you would do on-prem. You have an option for as a query editor. Is something you've seen in the beginning of it, but I personally never use it because what you can do is you can connect to your good old SQL Server Management Studio. So let me just share my other screen, and you will see that pretty much. Do you see my SQL Server Management Studio? So if you see that, you can connect to this. You can connect this to Azure SQL Server directly from your Visual Studio Management Studio. So you can use a lot of tools that you would normally use on-prem, but connect it to the fully managed database system in the cloud. A few things to keep in mind if you want to do it. Is the cost of Azure SQL, right? If you click on few bad buttons, it could be very expensive. So it's important to keep this. And when you create a connection to this Azure SQL, you have to make sure by default we need to authorize your IP. Okay, so this is something to keep in mind. So this is pretty much what I have prepared. So so what we've done from the beginning, we've created. We've seen how to have a simple application in Dataverse, how you can capture on create event, send it to the event to the Azure Service Bus, pass the parameter. Logic app would listen to the event, capture the data from the event, assign a variable, and place the data in variables and send it to Azure SQL database that you can use for it, or you can use it for the reporting purposes, or it can be some other different application that your database can be connected to. So let me know if you have any questions. So that's 360 of what I wanted to show. Let me know if there's anything we need to go more in depth, or if you have any questions.
Any questions?
Sure. Like my heart is like 20% up already.
Yeah. So I've got a question. It's not a technical question. As an architect, when do I choose this design in my design? When do I choose this pattern for the integration, and for which particular business scenario you would choose this type of integration over the other integrations available, and why?
Okay, for this particular one, okay, let me just see if I can find it quickly, because the queue is when message is sent to the queues, it's consumed by one recipient, right? If you want to be sure that your message is delivered to the customer, for something like inventory management would be the perfect case. So if you want to be sure that you're sending information from your system, it goes in the queue and then ends up like, let's say, inventory picking request. So you're sending it from one system to the other system, and you want to make sure that the other system received it. Something like, again, order processing, order fulfilling. Something like credit check, like I said, also could be a good idea, because there is one system one system is sending the message, the other system receives the message, and you want to make sure they receive the message. So this is the usual question. This is like, if there is general interest, we can create another presentation with other different patterns that we can see it much more in depth, because you have event grid, you have topics, published, and subscribers. But when it's one-to-one and you want to make sure you received it in order, because the order is important. So
thank you very much for answering the question.
I actually use it for, like, let me remember when last time I used it. Yeah, I think it was actually for shipping integration. That's where I used it last time, because you want to know that this particular order needs to be shipped in that order, right? So the source system dataverse getting it, one target system shipping database managing it. So this was the pattern used. And of course, some people might disagree. Like, this is how artists see it.
I don't disagree. Thank you very much for answering the question.
You're welcome. Дякую.
Okay, so does anyone have any other questions they want to ask? I guess that's a no. So then, thank you, Igor, for taking the time and sharing your knowledge about this topic with us and with the community. And I really hope that you will join us again in other meetups in the future to continue to elaborate on this further. Maybe not on this topic, maybe not something else, but we definitely would like to hear more from you, from your experience.
Thank you.
The recording of this presentation will soon be posted on our YouTube channel, and I just dropped a link to a short questionnaire, anonymous. We would like to hear your feedback on how it went, and to really hear you, to understand what we can do better as a community. Yeah, I just want to thank you, Igor, for this opportunity, and wish you a great day, and sort out all the stuff that you have on your plate, and hopefully we'll see each other soon.
Thank you. And can I add, like, closing words?
Absolutely.
I know I took a little break from giving presentation for about 2 years because of work. If you're interested for me to be there, please have topics, because I have this horrible ability not to be able to recycle my presentation. I always like to make something new. So if you have any wish list, something you want to discuss more in details, like, feel free, and I'll make the presentation accordingly. This is how I personally like to operate, because I don't like to recycle it. It forces me to remove all the blind spots. So if there is any interest, just send anything my way, and we'll make a presentation. It would be my pleasure to collaborate. So anything that's on demand, right? It forces me to, if I know the answer, good. If I don't know, it forces me to do in-depth research and come up with the answer that's hopefully satisfactory to everybody.
Absolutely, and that's exactly what we do also in the community. We have a separate questionnaire. We ask users to actually share their thoughts and ask questions what they would like to hear, because really it's much better to be much more specific than to just ask what questions, right? Because you can get what responses. So yeah, absolutely, I agree with you. Thank you for this. Then thank you all. Thank you for joining us today. Have a great rest of your day, and see you soon.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye.